You know that moment in a romantic comedy? The one where the handsome, charming lead gets down on one knee in a scenic spot, pulls out a dazzling ring, and the woman, eyes glistening with happy tears, whispers, "Yes?" That was me. That was the perfect fairy tale moment that every girl dreams of. But my dream had a dark, heavy secret tucked inside a velvet box. My fiancé, Alex, was everything I thought I ever wanted. Witty, successful, and he had that brooding, intense stare that always made me feel like I was the only woman in the room. We had met 2 years after his messy, drawn-out divorce from his ex-wife, Clara. I knew all about Clara. Everyone did. Alex had painted her as the villain in his life story, a cold, materialistic woman who had bled him dry in the settlement. I, of course, was the sunshine after his storm, the one who understood him. The proposal happened on our 2-year anniversary. He took me to a rooftop restaurant overlooking the city. The lights were twinkling. A soft jazz band was playing, and I was wearing the dress he loved. He talked about our future, our imaginary house by the water, the silly names we'd give our future children. Then he knelt. My heart was practically a drum solo in my chest. He opened the box, and there it was. The ring wasn't what I expected, not because it was small, far from it. It was magnificent. A vintage piece, Art Deco, featuring a huge, brilliant cut diamond flanked by sapphires. It was breathtakingly unique. I gasped, not just at its beauty, but at its familiarity. It was Clara's ring, not a similar ring. The ring. I knew this because Alex, in his early days of trying to convince me of Clara's soulless nature, had once shown me a picture of her wearing it. It was a detail he'd likely forgotten, a casual swipe through old photos to illustrate how over the top her taste was. He'd even mocked the size, saying she insisted on looking like a trophy wife. But I remembered the sapphires, the specific cut of the center stone. It was unmistakable. My mind started spinning like a frantic carousel. Where did he get it? He'd sworn he had to sell all their assets to pay her off. He certainly hadn't bought a new one this extravagant. I knew his current financial situation wasn't that good. The only logical, horrifying conclusion was that he hadn't bought it. He had retrieved it, stolen it. As Alex's earnest, loving eyes looked up at me, my mouth was dry. A million silent questions screamed in my head. Is this why he kept going back to her house after the divorce was final, claiming to be picking up the last of his things? Did he break in? Is this ring legally mine if I accept it? Am I enabling a crime? But then, the jazz band hit a crescendo. The waiter started to hover, trying to capture the moment. Everyone in the restaurant was watching, and in that terrifying electric moment, all my rational thought drowned in a wave of ego, panic, and sheer intoxicating desire for the perfect life. He was handsome. He loved me. The ring was gorgeous. The secret was mine, and I could bury it. I could make myself believe it was just a strange coincidence, or maybe he'd bought it back cheap. Anything to keep the fairy tale going. It's the most beautiful thing I've ever seen, I choked out, tears finally coming. But they weren't happy tears. They were tears of utter shock and silent, deeply selfish complicity. "So, is that a yes, my love?" he whispered, his smile radiant. I slipped the cold, heavy symbol of his previous marriage and potential crime onto my finger. It fit perfectly. "Yes, Alex. A million times. Yes." The applause from the nearby tables was deafening. He stood up, kissed me with a triumphant passion, and lifted me in a spontaneous whirl. I laughed, a bright, bubbly sound that was utterly fake, a veneer of joy covering a core of anxiety that was already starting to rot. I looked down at the ring. It sparkled under the city lights, a brilliant, terrifying little beacon. It wasn't just a diamond, it was a ticking time bomb. Over the next few days, I lived in a state of giddy paranoia. Everyone admired the ring. "Vintage!" "Where did he find it?" they'd ask. I'd stammer out a vague story about an estate sale or a lucky find. Alex, meanwhile, was completely at ease. He didn't even flinch when I once mentioned that it looked familiar. His easy, relaxed denial, or perhaps his genuine belief that I hadn't figured it out, was deeply unsettling. It was the first real indicator of how easily he could live a lie, and how easily he expected me to live one alongside him. I started researching Clara, not in a casual, curious way, but with a forensic obsession. I found her LinkedIn, her Facebook, her old Pinterest. She was a kindergarten teacher, lived in a cozy suburban house, and seemed perfectly normal. No signs of the monster Alex had described. I felt a pang of guilt, a sense that I was invading her privacy, yet I couldn't stop. I needed to know what I had taken from her. Then came the first small, sinister confirmation. I found an old article from a local newspaper about a charity gala Alex and Clara had attended years ago. The caption mentioned her jewelry, and there, perfectly clear in the high-resolution photo, was the ring. The exact sapphires, the specific mill-grain edging. There was no longer any doubt. Alex had stolen it. He had presented me with a prize of his contempt for his ex-wife, and I had accepted it. The question was no longer if I should confront him, but how and when. The wedding planning was in full swing. My mother was ecstatic, my friends were envious. Everything was moving at a dizzying speed, and I felt trapped, a prisoner of my own initial yes. One night, as we were having a late dinner, I tried a probing question, cloaked in innocence. "You know, this ring is so unusual. I'd love to know the real story behind it." Alex stopped cutting his steak. The charming smile faltered for a fraction of a second, an almost invisible twitch of his eye. "What do you mean, real story?" "I told you I found it through a private jeweler who deals in antique pieces. Why the sudden interest?" His defensive tone, the slight change in his posture. It was a performance, but not a good one. "No reason," I quickly replied, forcing a smile. "Just curious about the history." "It's so beautiful. It must have quite a past." "Its past starts with you," he said, too quickly, too intensely. He reached across the table and squeezed my hand, his gaze firm. "Don't look back, darling. We are moving forward with our future." That possessive, slightly chilling emphasis on our future felt like a warning shot. He knew I was fishing. He was telling me, without words, to drop it. And for a while, I did. I tucked the fear and the truth away, focusing on centerpieces and guest lists, trying to bury the reality under layers of tulle and silk. But the truth is a stubborn thing. It doesn't stay buried. It festers. And in a relationship founded on such a blatant lie, something else was bound to crack. I just didn't realize that the ring was merely the first crack in the foundation of Alex's much, much larger edifice of deception. The little secret I agreed to keep was just the prelude to a symphony of domestic betrayal and financial sabotage that would soon shatter my life. The real drama began when I accidentally answered a phone call meant for him. It was a restricted number, and I picked it up thinking it was a vendor for the wedding. "Alex, you missed the payment deadline again," a sharp, professional voice said without preamble. If you don't send the $5,000 by tomorrow, the account will be frozen and they will start repossession proceedings." "I think you have the wrong number," I said, my voice shaking. "No, I don't," the person replied, their voice dropping to a suspicious whisper. Are you the new girlfriend? Tell Alex he needs to face his responsibilities. He can't just keep hiding behind that fake-it-till-you-make-it facade of his. He owes the bank, he owes his creditors, and frankly, he still owes Clara." Then, the line went dead. I stood there, the phone heavy in my hand. $5,000 payment? Repossession? Owed Clara? The charming, successful Alex I knew suddenly evaporated, replaced by the shadow of the man the phone call described. The ring, sitting heavily on my finger, no longer felt like a symbol of love, but a piece of evidence, a tiny, glittering fraction of the mountain of lies I was standing on. My panic returned, but this time, it wasn't about a stolen trinket. It was about my entire financial and emotional future. When Alex walked through the door that evening, I tried to act normal, but the tremor in my voice was hard to hide. The phone call had shredded my composure. I watched him meticulously, looking for any sign of the desperate man described by the anonymous caller. He was his usual self, confident, a little tired, and immediately wanting to know how my day was. The casual hypocrisy made my stomach churn. "Who called you today?" I asked, trying to sound casual as I stirred the pasta. A restricted number kept calling. I picked it up, thinking it was the caterer. Alex froze mid-sentence, his hand hovering over the bread basket. The change was instantaneous and startling. His eyes narrowed, and the easy charm was replaced by a cold defensiveness. What did they want? They said they needed to talk to Alex about a missed payment. Something about $5,000 and repossession? I watched his reaction like a hawk, noting the flush that crept up his neck. He sighed dramatically, leaning back against the counter, playing the weary victim. "It's Clara." Of course it is. The settlement details were complicated. She's harassing me. That was probably her lawyer, or some debt collector she hired to scare me. She's trying to freeze my business accounts just to make my life difficult. He shook his head, looking sad. "She still holds a grudge, you know. She can't stand seeing me happy with someone else." It was a smooth narrative, perfectly tailored to his poor victim persona. But the word repossession didn't sound like a petty ex-wife's tactic. It sounded like a bank. And his explanation for the ring, that he'd simply bought it back, no longer held water if he was struggling with $5,000 debts. But repossession, Alex? That sounds serious. Is your business in trouble? I pressed, unable to let it go. He finally exploded, not with anger, but with a calculated burst of frustration. "Look, can we just drop it? We are getting married. I handle my finances. It's just old, messy stuff from the divorce that Clara keeps dragging up. Don't worry your pretty head about it. I have a big contract coming next week, and everything will be fine." He kissed me, a quick, dismissive gesture that felt more like a muzzle than affection. The conversation shut down, but my investigation didn't. I couldn't stop. The stolen ring had already compromised my moral standing. Now his financial secrets threatened my security. I needed concrete proof. The opportunity came a few days later when Alex went out of town for what he called a critical business meeting. The first thing I did was locate his laptop bag, which he always kept locked. I knew his password. It was his dog's name followed by the year he graduated college. the most obvious thing imaginable. What I found was far worse than a $5,000 overdue payment. I found a file labeled Clara Settlement Docs, Confidential. Inside, the truth was laid bare. Alex wasn't paying Clara off. He was massively in debt to the bank, and Clara was merely a co-signer on a huge line of credit he had maxed out before the divorce. The $5,000 was an installment payment to prevent the forced sale of a condo unit that was still technically in both their names and was Clara's current residence. If he defaulted, she would lose her home, not him. Alex had been systematically deflecting his financial responsibility onto her, weaponizing the divorce to ruin her financially. I sank onto the floor, clutching the screen. The man I was about to marry wasn't just a cheat or a thief. He was a calculated financial predator. And I was wearing his ill-gotten trophy. The sheer scale of his malice was staggering. But wait, there was more. Deep in his email archive, I found a thread with his mother, Carol. Carol, my soon-to-be mother-in-law. Alex's mother was a formidable woman, sweet on the surface, but with eyes that tracked every flaw and misstep. I had always tried to win her approval, thinking she held the key to Alex's heart. Now I saw a different picture. The emails were detailed and chillingly conspiratorial. They weren't just discussing wedding plans, they were discussing the ring. Alex to Carol. I got the item back. Had to wait for the old bat to be out of town, but it's done. Jessica loves it. Mission accomplished. Carol to Alex. I told you it would work. She deserved to lose it. That ring belonged to our family. Make sure you never tell Jessica the real story. She's too fragile. Just keep pushing the antique narrative. Now, about that payment for the attorney. The old bat was Clara. The item was the ring. My future mother-in-law wasn't just aware of the theft. She had actively encouraged it, viewing it as a righteous reclaiming of a family heirloom. The drama wasn't just between me and Alex or Alex and Clara. It was a mother-son conspiracy against his ex-wife, and now, by extension, against me. I was simply the convenient, gullible recipient of the stolen goods. This discovery changed everything. It wasn't just Alex's secret anymore. It was a shared, generational lie. When Alex returned that night, I didn't confront him immediately. I acted the part of the devoted fiancé, making his favorite dinner, listening to his embellished stories about the successful business trip. But inside, I was gathering my strength, mapping out my next move. I was no longer a victim or a willing accomplice. I was a mole, a spy in my own engagement. I needed a final, undeniable confirmation of the ring's provenance, a way to legally tie it back to him and to Clara. The day after he returned, Alex went for a routine checkup at his dentist. I knew I had a clear hour. I immediately called the private jeweler he claimed to have bought the ring from, using a burner app to mask my number. I simply described the ring and asked if they had records of him purchasing it. The jeweler, a stern-sounding woman, was polite but firm. "Sir, we keep meticulous records. We haven't sold an Art Deco sapphire and diamond ring of that size and design in over a decade, and certainly not to an Alex in the last 2 years." Final, cold, irrefutable proof. Alex was not a buyer. He was a thief. I was wearing stolen property. That night, as Alex was scrolling through his phone, oblivious, I looked at the ring on my hand. It was beautiful, yes, but now it felt disgusting, like a shackle of deceit. I had to know one last thing. I had to know how he took it and why he chose to give it to me. I chose my moment carefully. After a couple of glasses of wine, when he was relaxed and prone to oversharing, I leaned in. "Alex," I whispered, tracing the sapphires on the ring, "I have a weird fantasy. I want to know the real story of this ring, not the estate sale story. The story about how you really got it from Clara. You can tell me. I love you, and I won't judge." I played the role of the accepting, slightly rebellious partner who wanted to share a dark secret. My heart was pounding, praying he would finally crack. He chuckled, a low, arrogant sound. He thought I was being kinky, or maybe just accepting of his darker side. He looked around the room, then lowered his voice, his eyes gleaming with a mixture of pride and malice. "You really want to know?" he asked. I nodded, holding my breath. "It was easy," he confessed, the words dripping with contempt for his ex-wife. "She always kept it in the back of her sock drawer." That stupid, sentimental fool. I told her I needed to go back to the house to get my old tax returns. I went straight for the drawer. I needed the ring, not because it's valuable, though it is, but because I knew she valued it more than anything. It was her grandmother's, and I wanted her to know that even after the divorce, I still had the power to take what she loved most. Giving it to you? That was the perfect final insult. It's a statement, my darling, a statement that I win, and now you wear the prize. He kissed me, and I felt nothing but revulsion. His confession was a trophy of emotional abuse, not a declaration of love. He didn't give me the ring because he loved me. He gave it to me because he hated her, and I was just a tool in his pathetic, destructive game. The truth was out. Now the question was, what do I do with the truth? His words, "and now you wear the prize," echoed in my mind long after Alex fell asleep, snoring softly beside me. I lay awake, rigid with a cold, terrifying clarity. The man I was set to marry was not just an ordinary liar. He was a narcissist who derived pleasure from the deliberate infliction of pain. I wasn't his fiancée, I was his accessory, the perfect setting for his stolen gem and his toxic victory lap. I slipped out of bed, the ring feeling heavy and hot on my finger, a constant, sickening reminder. I went to the kitchen, poured myself a glass of water, and stared out the window at the quiet city lights. My perfect life had shattered into a million sharp pieces. My dilemma was no longer about saving the engagement, but about saving myself, and perhaps offering some small measure of justice to Clara. The first few days were a blur of performance. I smiled, I planned, I even went wedding dress shopping with my mother, all while feeling like a ghost inhabiting my own body. Every kiss from Alex felt like a slimy betrayal. Every phone call with Carol, his mother, felt like listening to a villain cackle. I was immersed in their drama, and the only way out was to blow up the entire stage. My mind began to shift from panic to calculation. I was dealing with a sociopath and his enabling mother. A direct confrontation would only lead to gaslighting, manipulation, and probably aggressive legal threats. I had to be subtle, systematic, and strike where it would hurt him the most, his public image and his finances. My immediate priority was gathering evidence. I started a secret folder on my cloud drive. The confidential settlement documents I'd found on his laptop were already there. Next, I discreetly photographed the ring on my hand, making sure the specific details, the sapphires and the unique setting, were visible. I also started recording every suspicious conversation. Nothing too obvious, just turning on the voice recorder on my phone and leaving it face down when Alex or Carol started talking about the past or Clara's misfortune. The biggest risk was contacting Clara. I was the other woman, the one wearing her grandmother's stolen ring. She would likely hate me instantly, but she was the key witness, the true victim, and the only person who could leverage the legal system against Alex. I finally tracked down her number through the old settlement documents. My hand trembled as I typed out the first text. I knew I couldn't call. She'd hang up immediately. I needed to deliver the shock, the proof, in a single unignorable message. Me to Clara. Clara, my name is Jessica. I am Alex's fiancée. I know this will sound unbelievable, but I need to talk to you about the ring. The Art Deco one with the sapphires. I have evidence that Alex stole it from you. Please don't block me. Your financial safety is also at risk. I hit send and immediately wanted to throw my phone across the room. It was done. The terrifying leap of faith. Now I just had to wait for her reaction. It took 3 agonizing hours. I paced the apartment, rehearsing all the scenarios. Outright refusal, hostile anger, or maybe, the one I hoped for, cautious curiosity. Finally, the reply came. Clara to me. This is a sick joke. Who are you? If Alex put you up to this, I swear I'll call the police for harassment. Me to Clara. I understand your suspicion. Please look at the attached photo. This is the ring on my hand. Alex gave it to me. I sent the high-resolution photo. Seconds later, a new message flashed. Clara to me. My God, where did he get that? He told me it must have been lost when the movers came. That monster. Tell me everything, Jessica. Right now. The floodgates opened. We spent the next 2 hours texting, moving quickly from suspicion to stunned alliance. I told her about his late-night confession, about the sock drawer, about Carol's complicity. She, in turn, revealed the true extent of his financial duplicity, how he had deliberately signed loans in both their names, knowing he would default, and how the impending repossession of her condo was imminent. He told me I was crazy, she typed. He kept telling me I was paranoid, that I needed therapy for being so angry about the ring. He took it right after I put my grandmother's portrait next to the drawer, the last time he was picking up papers. He wanted to hurt me, Jessica. He's a sadist. He confessed to me he did it to assert that he wins, Clara, I replied, and I'm so sorry that I was the prize he used to finalize his victory. I need to make this right. I want to help you take him down. We agreed to meet in person the next day at a neutral location, a crowded cafe across town. I needed to see the woman whose life he had been systematically trying to destroy. I also needed to show her the evidence I had compiled. The next morning, I carefully removed the ring from my finger. It had served its purpose as my anchor to the truth. I replaced it with a simple silver band I already owned, claiming the diamond ring was at the jeweler for a size adjustment. Alex, wrapped up in his own self-importance, barely noticed. Meeting Clara was surreal. She was exactly as her online profiles suggested. Kind eyes, a gentle manner, but with a deep sadness around her mouth. She was the polar opposite of the materialistic villain Alex had invented. We sat down, and I handed her my phone with the documented emails and the recording of Alex's confession. She listened, her face growing paler with every word of his cruel, gloating voice. I can't believe I married him, she whispered, tears finally falling. He's good at deception, Clara, I said, covering her hand. He almost ruined my life too, but now we have the truth. We have the proof of the theft and the financial fraud. We can use this to stop the wedding and, more importantly, stop him from ruining you completely." Our plan crystallized quickly. I would maintain my role as the devoted fiancé, continuing the wedding plans to keep Alex complacent and oblivious. Meanwhile, Clara would take the evidence, the ring photo, the confession recording, and the financial documents, to a high-powered attorney specializing in domestic fraud and theft. We had to move fast before the repossession notice arrived, and before the wedding gave him full access to my own considerable untouched savings, which I realized was likely his ultimate unspoken goal. We were two women, a former wife and a current fiancé, united by one man's venomous dishonesty. The game of deceit was about to turn on the player. With Clara and the attorney on my side, my entire life became an elaborate performance of loyalty. I continued to plan the wedding with a terrifying meticulousness, selecting floral arrangements and tasting cakes, all while knowing that the man standing beside me was moments away from a complete and public implosion. Every loving gaze I gave Alex was a lie. Every gentle touch was a calculated step towards his downfall. Alex, utterly secure in his own hubris, was completely unsuspecting. He was delighted with my newfound docility, mistaking my quiet planning for pure devotion. He grew bolder, more arrogant, occasionally making sly, veiled comments about how some people just can't keep their nice things, clearly referencing Clara's loss of the ring. I would simply smile. The stolen ring replaced by the simple silver band, a secret symbol of my true allegiance. Clara and her lawyer, Ms. Hayes, were moving fast. The recorded confession and the financial documents provided a powerful case for theft, fraud, and emotional distress. Ms. Hayes advised us to wait until the perfect moment for the reveal, a moment that would maximize Alex's shock and minimize his ability to escape public scrutiny. The perfect moment came with the official engagement party. Alex insisted on a lavish event at a high-end venue, wanting to show off his success and his beautiful, loyal fiancée. It was the ideal stage. All his professional associates, his entire family, including the complicit Carol, and all my friends would be there. It would be the final grand public lie before the truth detonated. 2 days before the party, Ms. Hayes secured a temporary restraining order against Alex regarding the marital assets and, crucially, a search warrant for the apartment, to be executed after I had officially left the premises, preventing Alex from hiding any further evidence. The plan was set. On the night of the party, I was a vision in a sophisticated emerald dress. Alex looked dashing in a tux, buzzing with self-satisfaction. Carol kept squeezing my arm, whispering how I was so much more suitable than that other one. I played my role to perfection, offering bright smiles and elegant small talk, all while my heart hammered a frantic rhythm against my ribs. The moment arrived when Alex stood up to give his toast. He raised his champagne flute, his eyes sweeping over the room, soaking in the applause and admiration. "To my beautiful fiancée, Jessica," he began, his voice booming with fake emotion, "the woman who saved me from the darkness. She is my rock, my future, and the woman who taught me what true, selfless love really is." He paused, looking directly at me with that intense, manipulative gaze. "And to celebrate this new beginning, I want her to put back on the stunning symbol of our commitment, which she had so sweetly taken to be sized." He gestured to me, expecting me to produce the stolen ring. I walked slowly to the center of the room, every eye fixed on me. I stood facing Alex, my smile still in place, but my eyes icy cold. "I actually don't think I will be needing this ring anymore, Alex," I said, my voice clear and steady, amplified slightly by the microphone he was holding. His smile wavered. "What? What are you talking about, darling? Just put it on." "This ring," I continued, reaching into my small designer clutch, "is a symbol. But it's not a symbol of our commitment. It's a symbol of your contempt, your theft, and your long history of calculated cruelty." I didn't pull out the Art Deco ring. Instead, I pulled out my phone and tapped the screen. The entire ballroom, which had been buzzing with confused whispers, was silenced by the loud, clear sound of Alex's voice, amplified through the venue's high-quality sound system. Recording playback, Alex's voice. It was easy. She always kept it in the back of her sock drawer, that stupid, sentimental fool. I wanted her to know that even after the divorce, I still had the power to take what she loved most. Giving it to you? That was the perfect final insult. It's a statement, my darling, a statement that I win. And now you wear the prize. The recording played for the entire 30-second duration of his grotesque confession. The silence that followed was so thick you could almost hear the champagne bubbles pop. Alex's face went through 3 distinct stages of shock: confusion, terror, and finally, murderous rage. "Jessica, what the hell are you doing?" he roared, dropping his glass. "I'm giving your ex-wife her ring back, Alex," I said, my voice now shaking slightly but determined. I turned to the ballroom doors, and then Clara walked in. She wasn't alone. She was flanked by Miss Hayes and 2 uniformed security guards. Clara was holding the genuine stolen ring, which I had secretly sent to her via courier hours earlier. "Alex," Clara said, her voice quiet but firm, "I believe this belongs to me. You stole it from my home." The collective gasp from the guests was incredible. Carol, Alex's mother, let out a distressed shriek, trying to grab Alex's arm. "Alex, no, don't let her do this." "And if that wasn't enough," I continued, regaining my composure, "Alex, your financial facade is over. The repossession on Clara's condo, which you tried to force by defaulting on the joint loan, has been stopped. Your financial fraud has been reported, and the evidence, including your emails with your mother, is with the authorities." Alex lunged at me, his eyes wild. "You're a maniac. I'll sue you for defamation." Before he could reach me, Miss Hayes stepped forward, calmly presenting a document to the venue manager and 2 documents to Alex. "Mr. Alex's last name," she announced for the whole room to hear. "This is a cease and desist, and this is a temporary restraining order regarding marital assets. The police are on their way, and I advise you to remain silent." The party erupted into chaos. Alex was spitting mad. Carol was weeping loudly about the scandal, and my friends were rushing to my side, confused but supportive. Alex realized the trap was airtight. His public image, his carefully constructed lie of success, and his engagement were all incinerated in one dramatic, unrecoverable moment. I didn't wait to see the police arrive. I handed the microphone to Miss Hayes, gave Clara a brief, fierce nod of solidarity, and walked out the door, shedding the emerald dress and the role of the devoted fiancé forever. The next morning, the papers had a field day. Engagement party scandal. Fiancé exposes groom's theft and fraud. Alex's business partners immediately cut ties. His accounts were frozen, and the legal battle began. The stolen ring was back where it belonged, in Clara's safe deposit box, a symbol not of loss, but of justice. I had lost the love of my life, but I had gained my self-respect, a clear conscience, and a strange, powerful alliance with the man's former victim. The worst was over, but the lasting impact of the ordeal was only just beginning to sink in. The walk away from that ballroom was the hardest and most liberating moment of my life. I didn't look back. I didn't care about the whispers, the flashing lights, or the wreckage I left behind. I just kept walking, a woman shedding a toxic history with every step. The days and weeks that followed were a whirlwind of legal consultation and media frenzy. Alex tried every trick in the book, denying the voice recording, claiming I was an emotionally unstable stalker, even attempting to file a countersuit for the stolen silver band I had accidentally taken with me. But the evidence was overwhelming. Ms. Hayes was a bulldog, and Clara and I were unshakable allies. Alex's downfall was swift and deserved. The financial investigation revealed systemic fraud that went far beyond the joint loan with Clara. His business was a house of cards, built on exaggerated claims and misappropriated funds. The humiliation of the engagement party ensured that none of his powerful connections would touch him with a 10-foot pole. He was facing multiple lawsuits, professional ruin, and the very real possibility of criminal charges for theft and fraud. Carol, his mother, tried to contact me multiple times. Her calls quickly shifted from panicked pleas for me to save her son to outright abusive rants, blaming me for ruining their family legacy. I blocked her everywhere. I had learned my lesson. Enabling toxicity is just as dangerous as committing it. Clara, on the other hand, became an unexpected friend. Our bond was forged in the fire of Alex's betrayal. We spent hours talking, not just about the legal drama, but about how easily Alex had weaponized our desire for love and security. She was finally safe, both financially and emotionally. The repossession was canceled, and Ms. Hayes was ensuring that Alex would be forced to settle his debt, protecting her condo entirely. She had her grandmother's ring back, too, not as a source of pain, but as a hard-won symbol of her independence. "Thank you, Jessica," she told me once, her voice thick with emotion. "You didn't have to do any of this. You could have just walked away quietly and saved yourself the public embarrassment." "I know," I replied, "but I couldn't live with the lie, Clara." I couldn't stand being a part of his cruelty. We were both just prizes in his game. I had to choose justice over comfort. My own emotional recovery was a long, messy process. I moved out of the apartment Alex and I had shared, finding a cozy, smaller place that felt entirely mine. I had to grieve the loss of the man I thought I loved, the charming, witty illusion, and accept that the real Alex was a monster. The entire experience had shaken my trust in my own judgment, leaving me cynical and wary. But over time, the cynicism faded, replaced by resilience. I focused on my work, leaned heavily on my true friends, the ones who supported my actions at the party, and started therapy. I had faced down a major lie and won. That strength was something no one, especially not Alex, could take away from me. I also learned a deep, lasting lesson about things that sparkle. The most valuable things in life aren't the large diamonds or the grand gestures. They are the things that are genuine: honesty, integrity, and self-respect. The sheer beauty of the Art Deco ring, that physical object, had nearly blinded me to the moral ugliness of the man offering it. I had learned to value truth over a trophy. The last I heard of Alex was a few months later, from Miss Hayes. His legal battles were consuming him. He had lost the majority of his assets, his reputation was in tatters, and he was forced to declare bankruptcy. He was living quietly, far away, trying to escape the shadow of the scandal. His ultimate fate was to be entirely alone, consumed by the consequences of his own calculated malice. He had wanted to win. In the end, he lost everything. As for me, I eventually stopped looking for the darkness in every man's eyes. I started dating again, slowly, deliberately, with a new set of non-negotiable standards. When a man expressed his feelings, I listened not just to his words, but to the consistency between his words and his actions. I was no longer interested in a fairy tale. I was interested in reality, integrity, and calm, honest love. Sometimes I still catch myself looking at my finger, remembering the cold, heavy weight of the stolen Art Deco ring. But the feeling of relief, of having liberated myself and Clara from a venomous liar, always trumps the memory of the betrayal. I said yes to a stolen ring, and that single foolish decision set in motion the total dismantling of an elaborate, toxic life. It was a terrifying price to pay, but it was the price of freedom and truth. And honestly, I wouldn't trade that freedom for any diamond in the world. Thank you for listening to this difficult confession. We are so grateful to share these stories with you. If this story resonated with you, please hit the like button and share your thoughts in the comments section below.